Hi there! In this video, I will show you and explain how to wrap a Node.js application into a set of containers and launch with Docker Compose. I will automate a building process with Dockerfile, launch 2 containers with Node.js application and 1 container with Nginx as a load balancer. So let's go! Take a look on a scheme. Inside Docker, there are 2 containers with Node.js application. In front of them, there is a container with Nginx. It is used as a load balancer to distribute traffic across Node.js containers. Nginx exposes port to the public. It could be, for example, Internet Gateway. And the only way to reach Node.js applications is through the Nginx, because ports of Node.js containers does not share it with the public. So our application is isolated, treated like a bubble. Nginx distribute requests by round robin. What does it mean? The first request goes to first container, the second request goes to second container, third request again goes to first container, and so on. Created a simple Express app with TypeScript and one root. To launch the application locally, I'm using TS node. Let's test it. Yarn run, and what is the command name? Command name def. Okay, and the server is started. Let's refresh. It works. Hello world, and port 3000. Okay. On the production, we need to compile TypeScript into JavaScript, and the compiled version will be used. And for doing it, I created 2 commands. First command is a build. So if I run yarn run build, it removes the dist folder and then the compiled project with tsc into the dist folder. And let's see, there is one file called server.js. So it's a pure JavaScript, and we don't need TypeScript on the production, so we can launch it with yarn run start. Okay, so it works. Now let's add Docker. I already created Docker files. I put it in a .docker folder. Let's see the Docker file for Node.js. So boom, it looks scary, but it's not. Don't worry, I will explain each line, so you will become a guru. For what we are having here, I'm using an Alpine version of Node image because I'm preparing for the production, and the smaller size is better. As you can see, I split the build process on multiple small steps, and I'm doing it to have cached layers. So treat each step who makes changes in the file system like a lawyer, and if there is no changes, cached version will be used. For example, take a look here. If there is no changes in packages zone, then a cached version of Node modulus will be used, and it reduces the build time, and faster build is cheaper. The next moment I would like to highlight is installing dependencies in the second line. For example, imagine our application is using ImageMagick or any other console tool, and we need to supply Docker image with all the dependencies. Remember, our application is like a bubble where all the dependencies is encapsulated. So install all your dependencies here. So as an example, I am installing ImageMagick. So some applications are using it. And the next, I'm installing Node.js dependencies is a tricky way. So I split it to have a cache. If there is no changes in packages on, cached version will be used. And then I add, I step by step add the project files into image, and then I launch build process, and that's probably it. And our image is ready, and this command is using to launch a container. So this is probably it. It's not so scary, and I would say pretty simple. And now we need to test it. Since we prepared a Dockerfile, we can say, okay, it looks like it's what we need, so let's test it. And to build and launch a container, I will use Docker Compose. So let's open a Docker Compose file. So few words about Docker Compose. What is it? It is a very handy tool for launching a set of containers. Remember, we will have 2 containers with Node.js and 1 container with Nginx. This is a YAML file, and we can comment it, and we add a port. So in the port section, left ports is ports on our local machine, and on the right, for example, let's put it 360, and the right port is port exposed by our application. So, and then we can go to the command line and type docker compose up. Yeah, and then we open port 360. So let's test it. Port 3000 is not reachable, and 3060. Let's say it works. So it means that Docker Compose might be cached version used. So to prevent this, I can add a build option. So let's see. Yeah, it works. Now we are sure that our Docker file is fine, and we can continue preparing for the production. To understand on this stage is that Docker Compose creates an internal network where containers can use their name for communication. For example, if we take a look on the Nginx Docker file, and in general, you just copy our config, site conf to appropriate directory, and then make a replacement. And in this config, it's a big config for proxy for forwarding requests. In general, there is only one important section, so you just can copy and don't care about it, is this one. And here we specify name of Node containers. It's a list of servers, like server groups, and we need to specify a list of Node containers and their names. And their names can vary from machine to machine, and then we specify a name in environment variable. So if I go to env, I specify that our Node container starts with fun with docker-node, and here in Docker Compose, let's uncomment it. I specify, I need to specify this environment variable to be passed in the image during the image build. And here is our environment variable value, and this is a default value. And on the building stage, it will be replaced with our value. But anyway, the reason I'm explaining it, I want to highlight that inside Docker there is an internal network. And important note here is that if you are going to launch 2 containers with Node.js, there should be 2 servers. If you want to launch only one, there should be only one. If you're 3, so and so on. Where we don't need it anymore, since we are going to launch it like in production. So where we specify the amount of Node containers, it's here. Like you might have multiple Docker Compose file, for example. It's not necessary to put it in the root. You can put it in another folder. Like you can have one for production and one for example, for your local development process. And here we have a deploy section where we specify that we need 2 Node.js containers. So, and we are almost ready for the final build. So let's test it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's I'm testing like clear and Docker do compose up build. I want to rebuild it. As you can see, we have log messages from first node container, second node container, and from the Nginx. And according to our config, it exposes 8080 port. So 8080 port is by default, and you can specify it in environment variables your own port. So let's test it. Our previous port doesn't work, but if we specify 8080, yeah, it works. And a few useful commands for the Docker. So for example, if you want to launch it on the production, you need to do it with a -d, so it's like a background. And then, for example, you want to see all your active containers, Docker ps. And for example, you need to connect to the active container to see what's going on inside, or maybe execute some commands. You do docker exec it the container name or your container ID. I am prefer name. For example, we connect to it being sh. Alpine version of the container has sh, and the full version has a bash. So, but we are using Alpine, so beam sh. So we are inside node pvd. As you can see, this is a we are inside container, and this is a files inside container, and I am a node. Okay, few other commands which might be useful. Let me think about it. Let me open my notes. What's important to tell you at this stage? Yeah, it's how to upgrade. For example, you push some changes to the repository and you want to manually update your images in Docker, so you can after you make changes in the file system, you need to rebuild it. Docker compose build, and then after that, after the you need to launch the newly built images with the same command, docker compose up d, and they are running again. So this is how it works. And if you want to stop it, docker compose down and down. Yeah, and if we type docker ps to see if there are any active containers, so no, there is no active containers. The link to the repository with the code samples is below this video. If you have any question, please leave a comment below. I will answer. If you need an e-commerce solution, consider Boundless Commerce. It's an API-first, headless e-commerce platform. Please start our repositories on the GitHub. It helps us a lot. The link will be below this video again. If you are looking for IT services, website development, e-commerce development, custom software development, DevOps services, or whatever, please contact me. I will take care of your project. Don't forget to thumb up. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope it was useful. So that's probably it. See you soon. Enjoy the development, and goodbye.